and political analyses that arm you with some frameworks, some examples, some functions that you can use to get your eyes on the prize and find your fulfillment. For today's topic, we are going to talk about based therapy. As many of you know, I am the based therapist. Of course, now, because some people think it's an own, I use that label as sort of a joke. I don't have the licensure yet, so epic own. But nevertheless, I still apply the same stratagems and fucking relax. I charge practically fucking nothing, okay? Nevertheless, I apply the appropriate intrinsic structure of therapy, which is relationship, working through your thoughts, feelings, and such that, and all of that. So let me check on my systems here. I know that X last time somehow didn't post it on my timeline. So let's see. We got that I'm live here, but it doesn't post it on my timeline. So you have to click on my profile picture there. So as many of you know, I'm the based therapist. I offer one-on-one services, life coaching that will essentially help you navigate the complexities of your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors to better get your eyes on the prize, find your fulfillment, while also bringing you to a sense of peace, confidence, and joy. That's over at marchesemethods.com, one-on-one coaching. You could also DM or email me for membership in my Discord for $5 a month, and you get unlimited texting, asking me for advice and help and that sort of thing. Marchese Methods at proton.me. Also, new to our stream here, I had Entropy stream up for our super chats, but I guess I have to stream to Entropy stream to do that. So I was like, dude, I just want some kind of like window to monitor here for tips here. So that is available over at Streamlabs. Now, if you're on X, unfortunately, this whole system where I use the studio for live stream and place that link into the stream description, it doesn't carry over to X there. So if you want to see that, you can head on over to YouTube or Rumble. In the link is in the description. Or if you're on Twitter, the Twitter tips feature is available. I never did it. I never knew how to do it. And then I saw it the other day, so I gave it a try. So if you would like to tip me, head on over to X and then click on the tip icon through Bitcoin or Cash App. And if you want like me to that to function as a super chat, because I always feel terrible trying to essentially ask for money without having something to offer in exchange. So if you do want to use that as a medium for super chat, go ahead and send something over on that tip and then send me a DM asking me to read something or in my live chats here. So, all right, so that's all that. And I do want to just address a point that is content, but a little bit separate, but still has the same theme of Coke theory. And that is that, dude, the whole fucking Bench 315 thing, every take on it is the biggest fucking cope. Like, I used to think that when I started my whole shtick, you've heard this story probably before. When I started my whole shtick, it was about discipline, success, bro, beating your feelings, this sort of thing, working out. And once you cross that threshold and you sort of get that down pat and habitual, you read all the fucking Robert Greene books, at some point it becomes a little bit masturbatory. And so I evolved from there to really more so take that into just like skill development. This entailed everything from my education in math to speaking to writing to people to career and so on. And then, of course, it ultimately culminates in doing this business of my own. However, what is my business, essentially, or what is my advertisement? And my advertisement is I can help you sift through all the nonsense. And so now you would think that on Twitter, there's at least some people. I mean, there are some good friends there that are like past that stuff. They're disciplined, they're successful, this sort of thing. And they're more now able to dance in the more complex, abstract, higher level ideas, leveled up essentially. But oh my gosh, none of these fucking people so much as even fucking half-ass. I used to say half-ass 3 times a week, 20 minutes. I don't even fucking think these people do that. And that is evident in this whole 315 thing, wherein the Secretary of War benched 315 for one. Okay, so a guy said that's not that impressive. And that's a cope. That's a cope from powerlifters, wherein powerlifters cope, try to get big, essentially. They quit a week in because they don't like how uncomfy feelsy it is, and they don't like their big fucking girl powerlifter hips. So they optimize by going for these gay little 1 rep max lifts all the time, where they have these hips built for squatting and deadlifting. And then they get to feel like they're stronger and better than everyone else by playing tough guy with the 1 rep max. By the way, training for 1 rep maxing is fucking easy, not challenging, not uncomfortable. It's not even muscular or anything like that. People seem to think it has the same fundamental muscular structure as weightlifting, more so for size and strength. It fucking doesn't, because it's not even strength. It's a very snap, like neurological system training almost, before it's even a muscular training of snap contracting. That's what that fucking is. So it's lazy. You know what they do? They half-ass in the gym with their Sour Patch Kids, their big 5-pound bag of Sour Patch Kids for intra-workout carbs, because they fucking need that, doing their 1 rep every 20 minutes. And so that's cope. And then they cope because they have narrow girl shoulders, so they can never bench more than 300, essentially. They barely ever fucking get 275 for one. So that's their way of ameliorating their anxiety about being or guilt about being a fucking classical cope theorist, lazy fucking baby who doesn't want to put in the serious effort, the serious discipline, such that you're uncomfortable, you're exercising sovereignty, you're beating your impulses, you're defying your body's aches and pains so that you can grow, be better, and ultimately make contact with your identity. They'd rather cope and take the easy way out and then say, well, I must be sovereign because, look, I could do this more than you, and I can train myself to be above you, and I could do this 1 rep thing. So that necessarily has a prerequisite of training and discipline, carefully neglecting the part where that's fucking metabolically easy. Of course, my nose is stuffing up now, the goy beams. But then the oppositional argumentative reaction was even fucking worse, because it was, dude, what the freaking heck? 315 is so freaking hard. Some guy 20 years in the gym to freaking do that, and 315, I ain't never even seen somebody do that in my gym, and you have to train so freaking hard. I've been training for 10 years and I haven't gotten 315. So those dorks have to portray it as this impossible thing as a cope excuse for their fucking mediocrity. Now, 315, I've only ever done it when the stars aligned, essentially. A handful of days where the stars aligned, I got it for 1. I think the best I ever did was 3 one time, and that was during a time frame where I was essentially training chest twice a week. And now the best I could do is like 275 for 4 or 5. Okay. So they're playing the opposite game, wherein they never reach 315 because they fucking half-ass 3 times a week, or don't fucking work out at all, or do their gay little push-pull legs exercises, where their push workout is like 1 tricep exercise, 1 chest exercise, 1 front delta exercise, and then they throw fucking Hecarino daily abs in there or something like that. Then pull 1 bicep, 1 lat exercise, and then they just throw in some kind of bullshit again, like calves or lateral raises or something. So these fucking faggots have to lap up this chance to fucking circle jerk each other about their excuse for not hitting 315. And that is that it's freaking Hecarino impossible, and it's so freaking hard, and so many people can't do that. And then my favorite, and this relates to, I'll use this to segue into the therapy thing, this low IQ understanding of value, wherein it's exclusively operating in supply and demand and likelihoods. So namely, they go, well, only 0.05% of the population can bench 315 or something, let's say. Okay, Yeah, that's because the majority of the population are fucking retard, fat, lazy, pussy babies. That does not mean you have crossed the categorical threshold of sovereign, strong, elite, or something like that. Eliteness is not exclusively comparative to the population, especially not the fucking average population. And so, yeah, 315, 0.05% of that's like when the engineering students, when everyone gets a 20 on the test, the one guy gets a 30 on the test, and he goes, I got the highest grade in the class. Yeah, you still fucking failed miserably because you're a fucking retard. And the idea that, well, it's okay to fail that hard and be retarded because this thing intrinsically pushes you that hard, and therefore this sort of I'm allowed to have the lower expectations. No, the fuck you're not. Get it right or get it wrong. So similarly with the gym, it's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck that 0.05% of the population can bench 315 or only 0.05. That doesn't cross you into the categorical threshold of some kind of elite or elite to the degree that you think. Especially because you cope theorists are going to take that and say, well, 225 is only 5% of the population. Oh, that's like, whoa, not many people could do that. So therefore I'm sovereign, therefore I'm disciplined, therefore I'm not a cope, lazy, indulgent baby. It's like, yeah, anyone fucking benches 225 for one their first or second year into seriously lifting. So, those are my thoughts on this 315 thing that keeps going across my fucking timeline. So, there's a similar version of this with therapy, with the arguments against therapy. And really, I guess it's more so, okay, there's the not all X are like that meme. And then there's the meme of abusing that to unironically say all X are like that. And this is evident in this therapy thing, wherein these dorks spam their feelsy, goodsy, quipsy lines. That's the first tell that somebody's coping. They're not making an argument. They're not making a meaningful inference or analysis. They're not counter-arguing. They're spamming quippy, feelsy, goodsy little dopamine hit lines and then getting their engagement. And this goes for everything across the right wing. Fucking IQ stuff, Heckarino raw milk, Heckarino optimized lifting, Heckarino Trump. You're all doing the same, this and 1,000 deportations. Yeah. This is all feelsies, feelsy goodsies. So, now, what is their arguments for this? What is their arguments for therapy as it stands? What do they abuse? Firstly, they abuse this average thing. The average therapist is mentally ill. The average therapist is a stupid woman. The average therapist, this, that, the other thing. Okay. Now, here's the problem, and here's the problem with every bit of evidence they try to apply to it. Therapy's gay, it's effeminate, it doesn't work, whatever. Here's the argument. This is what they say. They say, if therapy is like that, therefore I'm excused from the intrinsic growth process that was supposed to take place, wherein I subject myself to my uncomfortable feelings, I excavate my uncomfortable feelings, I anticipate behavior change, I exercise behavior change, I evaluate and investigate my belief systems and thoughts and reorganize them. Because therapy was the proverbial image of that, we all fucking know that's what takes place in therapy when it's done correctly. So they abuse that image. So now they say, well, okay, therapy is wrong because of this and that. There exists incompetent therapists. Therefore, the therapist or the credentials of a therapist does not filter for the skill, essentially. And that's a real argument, fair enough. But let me point out here, before anybody copes, I agree with the evidence of that. I do not agree with the conclusion. This is another low IQ problem where if somebody says something like, the average IQ of a black people is 85. And you say, yeah, okay, but a lot of you dorks are using that to then conclude, therefore brown people stupid, therefore brown people are less than, are beneath. And it's like, no, you can't really actually fucking do that, especially if you're a Christian, especially if you're a based Christian, because you know the intrinsic value of every identity and soul and the created valuable equality in the eyes of God. So, they abuse this. Okay. They also, in that they suggest there is no filter, and in that they suggest that it's gay and it's effeminate and it's coping and it's just heckin' talking about your feelings, which you also think, by the way, if you're a fucking idiot and you're preoccupied with your own feelings. You only think that because all you think about is feelings because you're an insentient amoeba. Therapy is feelings excavated and then resolved and problem solved when it's done correctly, when it's done with competence. Does it always filter for competence? No. So then find somebody competent. If it's, women, okay, find a male therapist. There exists plenty of, it's global homo. Find Christian therapists. They might still be a little gay and might still be a little foid-tarded. Find Catholic ones then, essentially. I have therapist colleagues that are like totally fucking based and red-pilled, even on the Jewish stuff, if you'd believe that. And so I keep going off and off because I was really disorganized with my notes here. That's why I was fairly hesitant to do this one. But so I try to make sure I say every argument here or say every point here. Okay, so now that they've established that therapy is gay or something, they essentially say, okay, the intrinsic growth process that supposedly takes place there or does take place, they know it takes place there, is like wrong by association. And anything that could happen in therapy is a product of this intention of therapists, which is being gay or coping or whatever. So therefore, no growth can possibly take place in therapy because all therapists are necessarily being gay about it and being effeminate and discouraging you from growth or telling you to take drugs or whatever. So now, what's the convenient thing they get to do now? Now it becomes, well, now we need a new definition of what growth entails and what things facilitate growth and emotional discomfort and everything. So this is where they go, weightlifting and steaks. Yeah, steaks, bro. Okay, let me eat a steak every day, and sure enough, that's going to make me happy. Sure enough, that's going to make me happy about how I can't get fucking laid, I can't date anybody, my husband cheats on me, my family treats me like shit, my mom is about to kick me out of the house. Yeah, steaks, bro. Steaks and weightlifting do that. Let me explain to you. So here's where they get it from. Firstly, low IQ determinism insofar as they think that happiness is chemicals. They think happiness is chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, whatever. They viscerally understand that the part about weightlifting that makes you happy is sovereignty over impulses and agency and being who you want to be and being better. They sort of tacitly know and understand that, but really they're more so grounded in their low IQ determinism about neurotransmitters. Okay, if it was just a matter of dopamine, everyone could just masturbate and do drugs and pig out. In fact, it's actually kind of a problem. The major contributing factor, arguably, to people not being happy is that they're indulging their dopamine a little too much. I mean, that's such an oxymoron to say that weightlifting is therapy. Why? Because of neurotransmitters? Okay, well, I get neurotransmitters from pizza, faggot. You say, oh, well, eating too much and being obese makes you miserable. Okay, well, why does it make you miserable? If the reason people get overweight is to indulge their neurotransmitters, just like you're saying weightlifting does. So obviously there's something different to it. And then just like the steaks thing. Oh, okay, yeah. Steaks are therapy, so I'm excused now to eat as many fucking steaks as I want. Grow up. You fat fucking pigs. Now, this is my favorite part in that they use this classical cope theory of, they say, well, weightlifting. And then they say, well, so long as I'm weightlifting, I'm exercising growth and therapy and all of this. Oh, okay. Well, what does weightlifting mean here? Weightlifting means for these fucking faggots half-assing 3 times a week, if fucking at all. Bullshit workouts, workouts with the stupid fucking graphics from Instagram that make them feel good to look at. The ones with fucking Spider-Man because they're children. They need to look at Spider-Man to feel good about workouts. The ones where they listen to, oh yeah, I'm a based fascist listening to hardstyle. So yeah, I'm like tough in the gym. And then they don't fucking challenge themselves. They half-ass every fucking rep, every fucking exercise. They cut every workout short because, dude, we gotta get out of here. We gotta get like serious about like doing stuff today. And in a masterful fucking cope rationalization, they get to have their fucking cake and eat it too and never subject themselves to discomfort in typical insentient, single-celled organism fucking fashion. Now, interestingly, they're never going to be fucking convinced. Why? Because their feelings tell them that this was rational. How do their feelings tell them that this was rational? Because they do this pseudo rationalization using false axioms, using false inferences, and thereafter they get their little dopamine hit. And it's the same dopamine hit they get from actually solving something, from actually rationalizing, from actually solving a problem. And so then, in their fucking Coomer fashion, they go, okay, well, my feelings tell me this was rational and this is correct, therefore it is. And then, if somebody feels like they're fucking correct, if a single-celled organism feels like they're fucking correct, they're even worse than Reddit fucking midwits. That's what it all is. It's right-wing Reddit midwitism. Oh, let me move my mouse here. Let me And this goes for more than just weightlifting. This goes for everything. They define anything as whatever plausibly masquerades as growth or discipline. Therapy is walks. And that's like alluding to like homoeroticism of like girl who's 30 years old having her epiphany phase. So yeah, real based there, faggot. Now, more of their argument that's irrational. I'll get to the evidence at the end of the things that they say that are rational, and then just like crazy fucking concept provide a fucking solution. I mean, and even just with the weightlifting, how many people fucking weightlift and are still miserable? How does weightlifting solve your, okay, I lift weights and I can't seem to be successful dating. I lift weights and I'm still anxious to approach women. I lift weights and I still can't seem to get guys to like me. I lift weights and I still feel like I'm not good enough. I lift weights and I still can't seem to get my career together. So, fucking faggot. Relatedly, I guess I'll just go over some of these quicker points that they make. Another one is, well, it's in the therapy, and this is their fucking real high IQ psychoanalysis that they all fucking post about all day anyway. They love to LARP that feelings are gay and aren't real and all that, but all they talk about all fucking day are their feelings. They don't explicitly state them, but you can start practicing in understanding how many fucking people, everything they utter is an expression of a feeling. These quippy lines, these vibe essentially arguments are all fucking feelings. So they go with their genius psychoanalysis too, because they're all actually fucking trying to be psychoanalysts all day, any day. They go, oh well, it's in the therapist's best interest to to freaking keep you in therapy because it makes them money. So it's in their interest not to help you. First of all, I thought you were all such 5,000 IQ alphas such that you're not manipulable especially not by a woman. I thought you were so mentally tough that a therapist could never mentally manipulate you into constantly seeing them for therapy just to pay them money. Two, they take fucking insurance, faggot. You're all faggots with your faggoty little insurance. So they all take fucking insurance. So if you have an insurance policy, at most your copay is going to be like $20 fucking dollars. So, freaking therapists are freaking expensive, so it's a freaking grift. They charge insurance companies. They all love charging insurance companies. That's like a fucking meme, idiot. The meme is they put their prices high as every fucking medical or every fucking profession that has to deal with insurance. They put it to $1,000 so that the insurance company will say, hey, fuck you, and think they're getting a deal by saying $200 at most. And then they say, okay, and then they made $200 in a fucking hour. For time, for something that didn't actually cost materially. So they love doing that to insurance. They fucking hate charging people directly. So you're a fucking idiot. You're an ignoramus. You don't even know how anything works. Have you ever been to the doctor without your mommy calling or something? Have you ever been anywhere other than the fucking pediatrician, you faggots? So anyway, then it's, well, it's in your best interest to keep you in therapy. So aside from the suddenly we're all susceptible to this kind of influence. First of all, crazy fucking concept, but every business literally ever is incentivized to make, like, they're in business. So yeah, they want to make money off of you. Now, what happens? Well, they also, to make money, they also have to do a good job. So naturally, if every fucking therapist's client is seeing them every year, someone somewhere is going to start reviewing them as saying, yeah, I don't feel like that helped. Moreover, according to what is there like just this intrinsic malevolence to therapists or something? Do you think this way when you go to any business? When you go to the pizza place, do you think, man, I'm not going to freaking pizza because it's in their best interest to keep me coming back for their pizza, so they're going to sneak freaking drugs in their pizza, and then that way they're going to make me only go to them for their pizza. Like, according to what does anybody fucking do that? You think that they do that because that's what you would do because you're a greedy, insentient, pathetic, fucking peanut brain where it's not even so much greed. It's just this hunter-gatherer, peanut little fucking brainstem instinct to hoard as much resources and wealth as you can. Moreover, they only really have 40 hours a week total. 40 hours, because their money is necessarily married to their time. So if they have 40 hours a week of clients and you leave and they drop one client, inevitably someone else is going to come for therapy. People come and go. So you're not, it's like narcissism. You're not that fucking important, you faggot. You're paying, you think, and it's like, it's even low self-esteem too. You think your only importance to them is money because that's the only reason you can imagine that anybody's invested in you. So it's like low self-esteem and then the narcissism as like a pathological defense. Relatedly, somebody else said, well, as a therapist, you should know that the people should be doing it themselves. First of all, as a therapist, I should know that. I thought your whole shtick was that therapists don't know what they're doing and don't know what's supposed to happen. So which the fucking one is it? Then it's, oh, well, people should do it themselves. Do what themselves? What the fuck are you faggots even talking about? Like, what do you actually think goes on in therapy? Do you think that it's some kind of enablement? It sure is for fucking retards. If you have a retard therapist and a retard. You're afraid of that because you're a retard and you'll want enablement. So anyway, then it's, and then even then, oh, you shouldn't be doing something for somebody they can't do them, they could do themselves. Literally every business service offered to you is something you can technically do your fucking self. I can make my own pizza. I could change my own oil. I could remodel my own house. That's like a whole shtick online, DIY, TikToks, or whatever. You know, and then of course this particular faggot, Hitch Slap, does this. Oh well, he does the libtard sophistry thing of pretending not to understand what the fuck I meant. He goes, "Well, I'm gonna take my car to the services because I can't do it myself." Argument destroyed. First of all, Schrodinger's IQ guy, you know, the genius IQ analyst here who somehow can't figure out not only what I meant, but also to how to change his own oil. What happened to that IQ? I thought you were a fucking genius. I thought IQ is necessarily an exact predictor of competence, an exact predictor of aptitudes. You know, then it's, oh, well, what if I need to rewire my house? Argument destroyed. And he uses this because it's like something that you essentially need a team for. And it's like, oh, okay, now look who's doing the not getting the average thing. You're going to use the one minute example of a class of job or a class of service that generally requires a team. Therefore, you definitionally cannot do it at the very least by yourself. But even then, it's like a team just expedites things in most of these cases anyway. So you can still do it yourself. It'll just take you forever. So this is like the level of cope that just gets so fucking circular and ridiculous that makes it clear that the argument has nothing to do with rationalism and everything to do with fucking feelsies and cope. And the incentive there, this is why they freak out too, is because once you deconstruct that cope, it forces them to take accountability, it forces them to investigate their wounds, and it forces them to wrestle with how they are being giant fucking pussies and never so much as thinking in the slightest bit of at least trying to subject themselves to discomfort pursuant to discipline. I'm actually getting quite a bit of everything here. Excuse me if this isn't very linear, this isn't very rational, or this is rational. Freudian slip. But excuse me if this isn't very linear as I usually like to do. It's just sort of like a nebula of cope that I have to address here. Now, I also want to say there's a part of this where it's like Reddit empiricism and low IQ stuff where these people love to conveniently pretend that the abstract human experience, that is thoughts, feelings, emotions, interpersonal exchanges, emotional transactions, the very clear communication in body language, in word choice, in facial expressions, they love to dance in how that is not empirically defined to further bolster their defense of, dude, you know, they love to, they rely on that essentially so that when you say cope, they get to resort back to their feelings about how, well, empiricism makes me feel tough and is the defined thing, and it has this connotation of tough. Therefore, not only am I not doing that, but also they're being soft because they're dancing in something that doesn't exist because it's not tangibly measurable or observable. So they hide behind that plausible deniability of how rationalism is abstract and how the abstract nature of what therapy is supposed to entail. Therapy, put into the closest possible terms of tangibility, is an exercise in relating with somebody wherein they walk you through your negative thoughts, feelings, experiences, self-sabotage pathologies, and find a way to work with you to not only understand them rationally, but feel them. Because there's a number of people who can self-analyze and know what they're doing wrong and know what they're self-sabotage. Like, drug addicts know they shouldn't be doing drugs, right? So And you can trace their pathology to pinpoint where their feelings in their brain flipped to doing drugs to resolve something. But even then, there still has to be a counteractive feeling to resolve the pathology. They have to feel it in their heart, essentially, that drugs are bad and not pursuant to what they want. And they have to feel in their heart that it's not going to protect them from whatever they're trying to protect themselves from. There's two ways this is done, either by healing the wound in relationship with the therapist. When I say relationship, I don't mean like just relationship in the way that any interpersonal interactive rapport is a relationship. Now, you could either heal the wounds that way. You could heal the wounds through active measures. I feel like a pussy, so I'm going to go to the gym to exercise sovereignty. And in fact, I will say that weightlifting does solve a lot of the problems because it is the most direct and base level contact with sovereignty. Most people's problems, realistically, is that they're not sovereign. Is that they're not disciplined. Let me just double check our Streamlabs here. So, but that's all complex. That's all abstract. That's different for everybody. That's hard to define. That's hard to put into words. That's hard to articulate. That's hard to articulate what goes on. And so they dance in this, therapy doesn't have, what's supposed to take place in therapy is necessarily inobservable. Therefore, and this is like more of the cope of delegitimizing therapy, thereby delegitimizing that intrinsic growth process by association. By intent. The therapist has the intent to do whatever gay little thing they're doing. Therefore, they could never possibly facilitate growth. They're not trained to whatever. Now, similarly, with the argument of they feel like they get the same dopamine hit of rationalism as they do with rationalism, then they conflate it with rationalism, their arguments. But they also, when they're arguing back with you, they still feel really good and totally everything you say flies right over their head if you're operating in rationalism. Because they're so deeply reliant on their feelings, they don't even know that they're reliant on their feelings. But they don't know, but they know it's there, and it's obvious to them. It's immediately apparent. They can't put it into words. They don't even know that they're identifying it, but they have their feelings there. So because their feelings are so obvious to them, they then further get this sensation of if somebody's arguing against them, they're stupid. They're stupid because they don't get the obvious thing. They don't get the obvious thing, that is their feelings, which of course they fucking, or at least I do, and I can analyze it, but they presume that, if you're not relying on those feelings, or if you're disputing the feelings as the axiom, you're wrong, and you're stupidly wrong because that axiom so obviously necessarily is the grounding upon which you build everything. So essentially, they think you're an idiot because you're not relying on what their feelings tell them. And their feelings are obvious to them, and their feelings are easy to understand to them. Therefore, if you're arguing the axiom of their feelings, you're necessarily stupid. And that's how they feel really good bitching at you and or at me at least, when I argue for therapy. And this is where they feel really good about that. And then, of course, these other dorks redefine some therapy adjacent thing of coaching, which I do, and it's real, but they redefine it to whatever they want it to be. So they're still sort of trying to allude to therapy, but then they just redefine it to whatever they want it to be. And in that case, what is therapy? Well, therapy is what makes me feelsy goodsy. They think therapy was supposed to be what feelsy goodsy. Oh, I feel bad. I go to a therapist. They're supposed to make me feel better. Falsely conflating pleasure and enablement and comfort with feeling better instead of peace, joy, tranquility, and confidence and transcendence and purpose, which are hard things to arrive at and hard things to facilitate and exercise. They go, oh, okay, well, therapy didn't make me feel better because the therapist didn't fucking tell me what I wanted to hear. So the axiom is it works if it makes you feel better. It doesn't make me feel better. Therefore, I get to redefine what I'm looking for here. And then they go on to some gay cope like gay yoga or some gay, I'm going to be the therapeutic coach now. And I'm going to redefine that process as, just not being ashamed of myself. And that's like the whole feminist-tard ethos, essentially, right? They think that their teleology is don't feel ashamed of yourself, but they don't address the source of the shame. They just suppress the shame. And that's what these dorks want and are asking for in therapy and so on. So, wow, this isn't going as long as 40 minutes or so. I'm not really going to try to make it to an hour anymore like I used to. I think I'm just going to stop when I'm ready. So, I guess I'll give like a summary conclusion here. The therapy cope is, feminist this, gay that, doesn't work this, doesn't make me feel good that, all then gets them to say, okay, well, therapy doesn't work. And if therapy doesn't work or is wrong or gay or manipulates you into being a woke-tard, therefore, the stated intent of therapy is wrong by association, and therapy can never facilitate that. If therapy can never facilitate that, I get to redefine what growth, excavation of negative feelings, confidence, and all of these things are, and what facilitates them. I'm going to redefine it to something comfortable, but what plausibly masquerades as growth, weightlifting, wherein I weightlift 3 times a week for 20 fucking minutes. My gay version of therapy, my gay coaching, coaching is based when I do it, by the way. This isn't a shit on coaching overall. I'm just thinking of this dork in my replies. And then they feel really good playing smart guy with, you're saying go to a man therapist? Okay, not all X are like that. They're hiding behind the plausible deniability of the abstraction of the skill that realistically no program is ever going to actually fully filter for. Simultaneously, they're going to lend credibility to how abstract and intrinsic the process is by saying things like, I went to a coach who was a better freaking therapist than anybody. And it's just like, first of all, okay, that coach just told you what you wanted to hear and gave you good boy pets, first of all. Second of all, in theory, yes, coaches, priests, teachers, in a way, parents even, are the original therapists. Because this process can take place outside of an office. This process takes place in relationship. And some people are a combination of natural born, but also developed skill in relationship, in psychoanalysis, in interpreting emotions and everything. But of course, because you can say it that way, they go, well, you're conceding. No, I'm not fucking conceding your point, which is that you're excused from intrinsic growth and excavation of negative feelings. I'm conceding the point that is therapy is infiltrated like every fucking thing is infiltrated. What they say essentially is like saying college is gay and globo homo, therefore I'm excused from reading. Therefore I'm excused from doing math problems. Therefore I'm excused from challenging my intellect, to memorizing vocabulary, to trying math problems, to developing my skills, to whatever. Like, college is gay in that way. Okay, you still gotta learn fucking math and how to read, faggot. Oh, well, college doesn't teach you that. No, it doesn't, but it does somewhat. Inevitably, you do have to fucking read and do math. And if you're such a tough guy, you're not fucking afraid of woke influence and gay influence. You're a tough guy, right? That means you could trust yourself not to become a globo homo. It's sort of an oxymoron. I mean, supposing even you become globo homo, you become that way because you think that's the correct thing. And if you think that's the correct thing and you're convinced, you're not going to be upset that you're that thing anyway. It's like, oh, I don't want to read Mein Kampf because I don't want to become a Nazi. Okay, but if you become a Nazi, that means you were convinced, which means you think it's a good thing. So if you trust yourself, or if you feel your argument against Nazism or whatever is strong enough, then you're not going to be afraid of reading Mein Kampf, because you know it's not going to convince you, because you know Nazism isn't true or something. So do you see how that works? And these dorks just feel so good that their argument, their cope rationalization using false axioms of how they feel and false axioms of average implies the average therapist being gay and retarded does not imply the pattern is that gay retards become therapists and everyone's a gay retard, and that the education doesn't filter for gay retards. That does not imply that the actual process that's stated as what's supposed to take place in therapy is intrinsically wrong. But they feel really good because it's the cool and smart thing now to go, you're doing neck salt, you're doing neck salt. Yeah, it's actually equally low IQ to say all X are like that. So they feel really good about that. They feel really good that their argument feels as rational as actual rationalism. So this is how you have this cope thing, and then, but what happens? When people are being fucking gay and lazy and babies, and they know they are, the guilt starts to bubble up. And when the guilt starts to bubble up, they need something else to suppress that feeling. So every once in a while, they got to tweet about, haha, therapy's gay, haha, I don't like therapy, to feel like they can suppress their guilt for not going to therapy. And then when people spam like and people agree and all of that, that's that proof, that's that evidence that makes them feel like, oh, okay, I'm right in this. But of course, you're not right. You have not arrived at the rationalism of that. You have not arrived at that conclusion rationally. You've only exercised feelings. You've only used your feelings. So inevitably, like, you can't hide from yourself. You know how in Genesis, the main shtick about Adam and Eve feeling protective of their nakedness after they eat the apple is that, it doesn't make sense because you can't hide from God. You can't hide from God. You can't hide from your conscience. You can't hide from your superego. You know you're being a lazy, faggot, fucking indulgent, low-life, insentient, single-celled organism fucking baby. You know you're being a fucking low-IQ retard listening to your fucking brainstem telling you you're going to die if you feel the slightest bit of discomfort. You fucking know that. Hence, this is what you see with the tweets, it's on the same parody as I identify as an attack helicopter. We feel really good about that. We feel like we're tougher and smarter than the libtards or whatever. And so then we feel really good, and that absolves us of our guilt. So that's what happens here. This is what happens with these quippy lines that don't make an argument, that don't say anything rational, that are just feelsies and vibes. And so, what do you do if you want therapy? Well, go to me, LOL. But really, if your whole shtick is, well, okay, women, it's gay, it doesn't sort something out, so find a therapist that's a male, Christian, based, whatever. Find one that just looks like a Chad. If you're a lookism, whatever, just find like a Chad or something. If you're really that fucking heuristic about it. And sometimes you get matched with somebody that isn't good for you, because ultimately what makes therapy a profession is that there's a way that there's something to the relationship in the therapist and the client wherein you're almost like pseudo friends. You're like professional friends, essentially, therapists. And so when that person, you like them, they like you, and outside of this, you would be friends, That's where the work happens, because you're able to open up to them. You feel understood. They understand you. They understand your mentality. They understand what you want. And so, yeah, you don't have that relationship with every therapist. So you might have to try a few. You might have to try quite a few. But what the fuck else are you going to do? Are you miserable and hate yourself, or are you not? Do weightlifting and stuff like that too, and that'll certainly aid in your confidence, provided you get fucking serious and lift 6 times a week, not 5, not every other day, not on a push-pull legs, push-pull, rest, 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 legs, rest, 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 push, rest, 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 rest. Take weightlifting seriously, actively challenge yourself, get fucking huge, get sexed up. That'll most certainly help. That'll stabilize you. Then you got to figure out what the fuck it is you hate so much about yourself, why you can't relate, develop relationships, and so on. So find a male therapist, find somebody you click with. Might take some time. Find somebody analytical. I went to therapy. I found somebody who fucking gets it and is a bro. This was like years ago. He was analytical. I was analytical. It was problem solving. He challenged me. I was forced to be accountable in everything. And then I arrived at peace. I arrived at full confidence. I arrived at purpose. Transcendence. I mean, I was always on the road to transcendence, but even more so, so to speak. More fully developed. So just stop fucking coping. Like, you dorks are scaredy cats. You dorks are fucking scaredy cats of your uncomfy feelsies. It's time to grow up. It's time to be, you know what? Being a man is not, like, unironically, I know that libtards say this, but, like, being a man is not cowardice of your feelings. Perhaps I'll put it that way. Gay pseudo-stoicism is cowardice masqueraded as resilience. That sounded so ChatGPT. At least you saw that I was looking at the camera, so I didn't look at ChatGPT to do that. And now I'm looking at my screen here because it's just kind of funny. So, all right, I think that's conclusive there. Excuse me if that wasn't fully linearized. But that's based therapy. That's the therapy cope. Living in perpetual pseudo-rationalism. I have so much I want to like pinpoint about it. It's so irksome. I'll say what's irksome, I guess. What's irksome is this offends truth. This offends sovereignty. This offends like this natural and God-given law of responsibility, accountability, and responsibility to grow, to be better, to develop yourself. It's juvenile. You're literally a baby. There's something so offensive about that. It is a rejection of sovereignty and free will. There's so much life for you to live. There's so much like happiness for you to endure, to have upon finding something to do, upon suffering. That might sound like an oxymoron, but neurotransmittal suffering procures spiritual happiness. That doesn't mean self-flagellate. That doesn't mean just pain for the sake of it, but it has to be pursuant to something outside the realm of satiating biological needs. Just something as simple as weightlifting, reading, learning something, developing a skill, playing in fucking Photoshop, making racist edits, whatever. Just exercising some kind of skill in that sense. So I really find the dishonesty contemptible and the rejection of sovereignty contemptible. Like, I cope. I drink caffeine every day. That is categorically wrong because it is. I do it to feel good. I like the way it makes me feel. According to the Marchese philosophy, that is categorically wrong. And every day, you know what happens? I say, it is wrong. I am doing this for the wrong reason. I am doing this to feel good. I don't have an excuse. I don't have an explanation. Now, understandably, a lot of people get confused. They think this point is the point where they have to self-flagellate with guilt to get themselves to stop. To get yourself to stop, just arrive at your values, just strengthen your values such that you value the right thing so much you forget to do the wrong thing. Self-flagellation just creates more preoccupation. So, I don't want to keep rambling. I don't want to keep going all over the place here, but there's something I'm always trying to get at. This is why I'm hesitant to do videos and stuff like that too, and I take a long time to write and to procure content because I want to get to those depths, like in particular the depth of that rationalism, the depth of why they feel like this is like rational, the cope and this sort of thing, and how they make that logical step. I think the best way to really summarize it is they categorize the process of growth as guilty by association. And the association comes from this presumption of the intention of the therapist and everything that goes on. They presume that necessarily the therapist's behavior in the therapeutic relationship cannot have a consequence of growth. And then they conveniently redefine growth, carefully omitting the fact that the therapeutic relationship and the therapeutic process is abstract, is still existent, is still inexcusable, and still exists in the confines of therapy, presuming competence. That's another part of it too. It's like, okay, there exists incompetent therapists. That doesn't mean therapy as a category is wrong. They really do do all X are like that. They do the average means all X are like that. They do the opposite of the not all X are like that meme. And they're perpetually relying on their feelings to inform them that their argument was rational, because it feels like it was rational. And they perpetually rely on whatever feeling, convenient feeling they have as the axiom. And that axiom is obvious to them, so that you're arguing against the existence of that axiom makes you stupid to them, conferring greater authority to them in their argument. So perhaps that's deep enough. So let me stop there. That's our time there. Let me not just ramble and start sounding like an idiot. That is base therapy. That is the therapy cope. I think I'll manage to do more of these more often before I do the article. I was doing the article first, then the video, so now I'll do the video, then the article, just to get content flowing a little bit more. Remember to like, subscribe, retweet, Marchese Max, read all my content. Got to help me get up there. You got to help me get famous. I'm growing a little bit more effectively on Twitter past like week or so, but it's still slow there. It's still slow. If you're really high IQ, you're going to retweet your mutual, all right? That helps a lot. Stop retweeting big slop accounts. You guys all say you hate slop. Okay, well, my shit isn't slop, so fucking retweet and like and reply to me. Do all three every single time. Or quote tweet if you want. So, if you would like one-on-one coaching and base therapy wherein I work with you to navigate your confusing negative thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that will... I got to workshop that one, huh? Navigate your confusing thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and wrestle with them to get them better suited to what you want out of life, to get you on a pathway to purpose, transcendence, confidence, happiness, peace, joy, whatever relationship you want. Head on over to marchesemethods.com for one-on-one coaching and base therapy. DM or email me, marchesemethods@proton.me, for my $5 a month Discord, wherein you can text me all day, every day for help, advice, questions, thoughts, whatever. I have the Marchese Methods hoodie up on marchesemethods.com, and then you could send a super chat Link is in the description from Streamlabs. And you could tip me on my X profile in the upper right icon. And I have Bitcoin and Cash App available there. So thanks so much for watching. I will see you next time.